Michael, good morning. How are you doing? How is sunny Christchurch treating you today?
It's fantastic, mate.
Yeah,
It's beautiful, lovely sunny day, bit crisp, but as always, it's a beautiful day in
yeah,
Christchurch, the Garden City.
yeah.
How about you? How you doing?
Yeah, nice as well over here in Auckland. I was just looking outside. We had a 2 second rain a couple of minutes ago, but other than that, beautiful sky with some nice white clouds, picturesque. But Michael, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to have this chat with me. Because you're extremely busy. You're considered the number one speaking um, coach or speaking teacher. Yeah, probably speaking coach is the correct word. And I'm really curious, how did you get involved in teaching people how to speak? How was your journey? Where did it start?
To keep it relatively short view, because it's been a lifetime journey to get here. Where it began specifically for speaker coaching. So my background is 20 years training and development in the corporate industry and outdoor guiding that led to training New Zealand Police and IRD and FMG in high performance coaching. So I used to coach people on how to become really effective coaches within government organisation. I split off from there in 2012 and created my own business, which was Smart and Wise.
Yeah.
And that was specifically doing tailored training for organisations like Meridian, Fulton Hogan, and big organisations as well. Mm-hmm. I ended up as a speaker coach voluntarily as the speaker coach for TEDx Christchurch for 4 years. Right. And at that point, a client reached out, that was Jade Software Corporation. They reached out to TED and sort of said, hey, do you have someone you'd recommend for one of our speakers who's doing international conference speaking? We'd like to see them get better for the money we're investing into flying them around the world to give these talks. And of course, I was referred as the speaker. So I had this really weird moment of transition where, as a trainer, you take all the knowledge, you've got it, you carry it with you, you've got a briefcase, you've got your music, you've got all your tools and your tricks. And I went into the session and it was like, what am I going to do? What do I take? And it felt really vulnerably exposed. It's like, what do I? And I thought to myself, okay, well, how do I normally do this when I'm coaching people for TEDx? Mm-hmm. And it was like post-it notes and a pencil. So I literally walked into this session with Jade Software with post-it notes and a pencil. Right. And usually in training and development, how it would work is there's a room full of people sitting there and they go, come on then, show us what you've got, and you do your thing. And this turnaround was me sitting down going, okay then, come on, show me what you've got.
Right.
And literally as soon as the person started speaking, I started post-it note after post-it note. And then they stopped and I just got up and slammed these things on the wall and just went, these are what we need to fix. Wow. And it was so different from my normal day-to-day that I've been doing for 20 years. I just fell in love with it. It was like, I really like this. And it began there. So that began 2.5, 3 years ago now, that I officially stepped into executive speaker coaching and investment pitch coaching. Yeah. And it's just rolled on and grown from there.
Yeah. And so you're obviously traveling all over New Zealand to coach people overseas as well. But now with the close down, with the lockdown, that would have had an effect to your business. How did you adjust things a little bit?
Well, I was kind of fortunate. So I don't travel so much overseas at the moment. I do coach. I have clients in California. I've got clients that are pitching into the US from New Zealand. And all of that stuff I'm doing online. And I was doing online previously before COVID anyway. So I didn't really have to transition much. I did contemplate, because I still, now I've gone back and I do, people have requested, can you do group training for us? And initially I was like, no, I'm just doing this one-on-one face-to-face coaching. But with heaps of demand, I had to put something together and started running short workshops around speaking. I was thinking that if we stayed in lockdown for any longer, I would have to contemplate putting those online.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, with us coming out where we have, I didn't have to. So I think overall I lost one client during the whole lockdown period. And the reason I lost that client is simply because the conference event they were going to speak at overseas was outright cancelled.
Right,
So
yeah.
we just sort of went, okay, well, there's no point carrying on with this.
Yeah.
Outside of that, just continued. It hasn't changed much. And if anything, now the area that I'm picking up more work in is investment pitch coaching. So there's a whole bunch of money out there available, and there's a whole bunch of people wanting that money. And basically, whoever's got the better pitch, whoever can articulate their message in the most succinct, the most effective, compelling way is going to win that money. So that's the majority of work I've been doing since coming out of lockdown from COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't necessarily work with company leaders. You work more with self-employed people or entrepreneurs or people who want to go and do. For me, trying to translate it into my simple mind is going to what we see on television as the Dragon's Den or the Shark Tank, where people go in and pitch their idea. Is that a little bit more of how you work with people?
All of the above. So I do all of the above.
Right.
So executives, CEOs, generally it is more at that executive level, or it's a business owner developing whatever. So generally the people I'm working with are subject matter experts in their field, and they're being asked to speak at these big events.
Right. Yeah.
The pitch coaching is very separate. So there are two very distinct areas that I'm working in. Getting ready for a big conference that you're going to speak at, and you want to represent your industry exceptionally well at an international level. The other side, the pitch coaching, the Dragon's Den type stuff, I probably wouldn't say that it is, it's probably the similar concept of what you're going to be seeing on Dragon's Den, but not quite as nefarious. I think it's a bit more friendly as long as it's done well. But essentially, same. So my last client was pitching for $1.4 million. They were given 45 minutes to pitch, and they wanted to deliver the content in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And then have the rest of the space for Q&A, where it's, because that's where you get the, more interest. But it's all based off that first 15 minutes. So, and they were going to be delivering to 6 independent characters from different organizations, and they were going to be doing it online.
Wow.
Yeah. So so most people, when they're pitching face to face, honestly are pretty average. But when you put them through this process, that distance, they're gonna struggle a lot more. So we were specifically coaching for that, and especially content. So one of the pieces of feedback that he got, because he messaged me like that day after it, and he said, smashed it. It was awesome. But one of the key things that one of the panel said to him was, I cannot believe you articulated such a high degree of technical difficulty that you deal with in such a simplistic way. And they literally had to comment that it was so well done.
Yeah. Wow. Very nice. Very nice. And so with working with executives, with working with leaders and helping people pitch better, what are the main problems that you see people have? You just said that most people are a little bit average before meeting with you. What are the main or common problems that you see coming across with people?
No different to designing a TED Talk, right? So TED Talks are traditionally 18 minutes long, and people have, if they're a subject matter expert, they've got 20, 25, 30, 40 years of experience and 18 minutes to say them. That's essentially it. People are trying to pack too much content in too short a time frame, and all they do is overwhelm their audience. So it's that whole concept of less is more and simple is better.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time my work is, I love this term, and I would kind of tell people to use this term more and more often, especially if they're in the academic or tech industry. In other words, so give the high profile, the subject in the way that it suits for you. So it's like, I am an expert in this and it's highly technical, But in other words, it works like this as well. So give the technical aspect and then just give the simplified. And audiences love it because their job shouldn't be trying to figure out what you're saying. Their job should be just for you to give them the easiest form of information to quickly understand what it is you do and what the product does and why it's of benefit. That's it.
Yeah. So that's the main issue. And how do you see the differences in presenting to camera, the way that we speak right now, and presenting to audience? What are some of the main issues that you see people have with those?
So presenting to audience, you get instant feedback. Obviously, there's delay with this, right? So even as we're talking, the screen is jumping from you to me to you. There's going to be a little bit of a lag. There are little... so for the moment, I can see myself, right? So which is fine. But if I'm talking to an audience, I can see them. I can see their eyes. I can see their frowns. So that little frown is when they didn't quite understand something, and I see it. But if I'm just looking at myself, I cannot read that. So these are areas where, with a live audience, you can gauge and you can maybe clarify a little bit more because you've seen that little change. With this platform and this medium, you just don't have that. So what happens is your audience will start to do strange things. They'll maybe respond a little bit different. They'll pull back a little bit and you'll see it, but you won't know why because you didn't catch it in the moment. And that'll make you feel insecure about your message that you're not getting it right. And as soon as you start to feel insecure, you're going to make it worse. You're going to become nervous. You're going to become self-conscious, and you might even start to freeze up a little bit.
Yeah.
The other part being with a lot of this stuff is, you've just got internet. That's it's technical. Anytime you add technology into the mix, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
So how do you minimize the amount of problems to simplify the process?
Yeah. And when we spoke before we started speaking earlier, we spoke about the fact that you would do coaching people online, but you would rather not do it. Why is that? Because of those reasons, or do you have some other things that you don't enjoy about this?
So my preference is face to face, and the majority of my clients, where possible, the preference is face to face as well. For me, the process is just faster. It's faster because I can pick up on those little things really quick. Oftentimes what I'll do with a client is I'll get them to record themselves and send me a video of them speaking, and then I can analyze it in my own time, and I can see those little things. And then we can both watch the video together, and I can go, see here where you were doing this. Let's adjust that. Let's change this. The hand positioning's, not working for you. Which comes down to a delivery aspect. So if we're working on content creation, we can do that like this quite easily. It's just back and forth. We don't even really need to look at each other. Yeah. But when it comes to delivery can be a little bit more difficult. So a pre-recording works really well.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for a while. You are New Zealand's #1 speaking coach. You would have had some great successes with some people. What would you say are your, top 3 most successful coaching people that have had great results from working with you?
So the one that got me here where I am would obviously be TEDx, and that'd be Lilia Tawara, she spoke in 2017, I think it was, at TEDx. My wife selected her as a speaker. We brought her on board. She has since become the most viewed TEDx talk in New Zealand, the 5th most viewed on the planet, and she's just been picked up by the official TED platform, and her talk has been transcribed into 6 languages.
Wow.
She's just topped over 9 million views on YouTube, and I expect it to climb a lot more with it being uploaded to TED. So that is one of the highlights that that got me to where I am now, as in, it's a pretty big deal on a global platform to be able to do that. The other ones, there are some, it's kind of like where has been the most transformation. So, there are the giant ones. So there's Lilia, and then the ones that spring to mind are Stephen Pike. So Stephen Pike is the executive sales manager for Williams Corporation, which is a property development company down here in Christchurch. He was asked to speak at a wealth creation seminar for 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes just so happened to be on the back end of an accountant speaking for an hour and a half, which is crazy, right? Like, that's a pretty hard task to ask someone to speak after an hour and a half of listening to an accountant.
Yeah.
And from all accounts, the accountant was a really good speaker, but it's just that audience has been sitting for an hour and a half, and they've been taking in all of that information. And if there's not some massive state change, you know, like, hey, here's one person, now let's all jump around and move and, you know, reset your brain, and here's a new speaker. If they don't do that, that's a really tough position to be in. So Stephen Pike ended up speaking for under 5 minutes, which was crucial to his talk. And he sold, at the back end of it, during the networking, he sold 2 houses valued at over $700,000, which led to other engagements, warm interactions, which led to more sales. So he sold over $100,000 worth of property for a talk that was less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
So that's a huge one. And there are many more. Like, all of my stories end up like that. Someone's won something somehow. The other one is Emily Blight. So she was 23 when I started coaching her for pitching her business, which is Limpidity. And she won the Ice House Ice Angels Best Pitch of the Night award in front of an audience of over 900 potential investors.
Wow.
Who significantly invested in her cause. But I mean, there's one that stands out to me above all of those, and it's really weird. It's nothing. There's no financial gain. There's nothing like that. It was just individual growth for this person. And it was a student at ARA. And I actually went in and did some volunteer coaching, pitch coaching for the marketing students, for level 700 marketing students. And I spent a few, you know, like a bit of time with them. And there was one student in particular, his name was Jaden. And when he used to speak, his hands would come together and they would rise up like this. And he was a bigger fellow. And what would happen is his shoulders would rise up and it would cut off the veins in his neck.
Right.
And his face would go really red and he would become really self-conscious and he would stutter and he wouldn't be able to speak. Through a process, I think I gave him like a pen. And I said to him, just hold on to the pen, hold it in your hand. And when you feel your hand touch that pen, acknowledge it and then just separate your hands. And we practiced doing that for ages. And he got to the point where we reduced him down to a coin, like a $2 coin. And he had it in his hand. And he used to rub it while he was speaking. And it made him just feel more comfortable and confident. And he would still do the thing where his hands would come together and touch. And as soon as he felt the coin, he would go, ah. And he would pull his hands back down to his side. I heard later on from his lecturer that he'd got a job in marketing and he was doing exceptionally well, and he gave a talk that was like had the audience crying, and it was just through that one engagement, that one little thing of his hands touching together that created that. Just by stopping that one thing, it changed potentially his career path. And that's kind of like, that's awesome.
Yeah, amazing. There's probably great rewards from you emotionally from seeing people achieve and change through your coaching.
It's pretty cool. It is literally that transformation. I mean, communication is our biggest asset in business and in life, you know. And like that young man, for example, I imagine that his personal life probably had some areas where he would have benefited from being a bit more confident to communicate as well. Yeah. So the ripple effect through his life will be, who knows where that's going to end up for him. You know, what other outside relationships he's been able to express himself more confidently and more freely in. But yeah, of course, I love it. I mean, it's a side benefit, right? It's
yeah, fabulous. If when you meet people right now, and let's say somebody is thinking about getting into public speaking and wants a little bit of advice, and obviously without seeing them, it's hard for you to give advice, but what are some general tips or general techniques or an advice that you can give somebody who is thinking, hey, I want to become a public speaker, or hey, I need to improve my public speaking skills?
Yep. So practice creates confidence, right? So a lot of people are lacking confidence, and they try and get on stage and they try and wing it and do the best that they can. And what happens is they fail, which then affects their confidence. So, but you need to know how to practice. And I think that's key. I mean, you can't practice if you don't know what you're practicing. First thing you've got to do is find out what you're speaking about and be very clear about that. So oftentimes people will be asked to speak at events and they don't get given a small enough box to sort of flesh out their ideas in. Oh, can you come to our event and speak about leadership? It's like, can you kind of be a bit more specific? Because leadership is a huge subject. Yeah. And if you leave it up to me, I could spend weeks trying to figure out what exactly you want me to talk about. So get really specific. What exactly do you want me to talk about? And what exactly, like, what is the outcome? What would you like people to walk away from hearing me talk? What would you like for them to walk away knowing? And as soon as you know that, you can tailor your talk just so specifically. The next thing, write a damn script. I ran a session years ago for a bunch of people, and I said, hey, here we go. Sit down, grab a piece of paper and pen, and write out exactly what you want to say. And they were like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And then they got up, and I was like, okay, present it back. And literally, you can read it if you want. We're not, this is just an easy step process at the moment. We'll get harder as we go on. And some of them were trying to, they were looking at the notes, and they're like, I was like, what are you doing? You don't have a beginning, middle, or end. And it's like, well, I just bullet pointed it. I was like, I told you, write a script. And they're like, yeah, but really good speakers, they don't write scripts. They just have bullet points. I mean, some of them don't even have notes. And I'm like, yeah, because they're a really good speaker, and they've been delivering that talk for 20 years, and it started with a script. It started really small, and they told that same talk over and over, and then they built another little bit on top and a little bit more until they can give this amazing presentation. So write a script. Have a plan, write a script, time it. I've been to so many events where the person's given, let's say, 4 minutes to talk, and they've got a pile of notes this big, and you can see by 4 minutes, they're halfway through those notes. Yeah. And you're just like, is someone going to stop this? Is someone going to step in and stop this? Because it's rude. You've been given a time frame. There are other speakers that need to speak. You're stealing time from them. As soon as you go, let's give it 30 seconds. As soon as you go 30 seconds over your allocated time, you've just lost your audience. Any respect that or trust that you've built, you're losing it every second that goes by. Yeah. So time your talk, and then just practice it. Once you've got it timed, practice it. And I like to say to people, like for TED, I used to say to them, grab them, print them at around 16-point font, and put them up high around the walls so that you can see them from about a meter away, and read it from there, left to right linear, because that's how your visual memory will store it into your brain. And then once you've got that, because if you think about children's nurseries, all of the alphabets around the top, right? It's there because it stores into the visual memory. If we're looking down at our notes constantly, our emotions, our kinesthetic memory is down to the side. You don't want to store your talk into your emotional memory. You want to store it into your visual memory. Yeah. Yep, because that's where we access the information. And then once you've done that, start to play with your physiology that goes with it. Figure out like what your hands are actually going to do. Figure out what your feet are doing as well. So there are 3 key areas I like people to work on: feet, hands, face. That's it. Focus on those. Yeah. Finally, when you're going to walk on stage, walk on, pause, stop, get your feet sorted, take a breath, and then speak.
Yeah. Incredible. That was a lot of information, and I hope that will help people if they watch this and they can change some things.
Well, so on that one, because I mean, there's so much more information, but that's kind of the quickest I can give in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah.
On my website, there are free downloads, like free downloads of what I've just said and way more. Yeah. So if you want to access that, I'm sure we can chuck it somewhere in the comments or in the content here. But it's free. Like, I just want people to speak well.
Yeah.
I want people to be more confident speaking. So get that stuff and read it.
That was a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and I really, really appreciate the sharing, Michael, and the time that you have given me. So thank you so much for your time, and again, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been really cool, really quick, really cool. I would like to say this: I'm generally pretty approachable. And I don't do everything for money. Like I said, I'm more about helping people. So if someone's got a talk coming up and they just want to maybe contact me and go, hey, you know, I've got this thing and I've got this little thing I need to, can you just give me a quick couple of pointers? Contact me if people want to. I'm pretty receptive to that.
Fabulous.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Michael.